Welcome to our Backyard Brothers podcast. We are one brother short, at least for the moment. Cody may be on later. He had something come up, but we'll welcome him in if he comes in at any moment here. Otherwise, we will manage without him. He did have our memory today, and so we were not going to do it without him. We're going to just jump straight into the NBA playoffs. That's what we're covering for the most part today is basketball. So I am going to remember how to share my screen. Okay. Entire screen and this one. Can you all see the Pacers versus Knicks here?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was it. Yes. Okay. All right. Pacers, Knicks. This is the Eastern Conference Finals, best of 7 series. The game is going on right now. Game 5. What is
Five.
today? 5. Yeah. Game 5 is going on right now. I was going to pull up what that score is. It looks like the Knicks are up by double digits right now. So at halftime.
They were smoking them when I left.
So this is what it looks like so far. Pacers won game 1 and 2 in New York. Game 1 in overtime. We talked about that one last week, the crazy choke game where Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers came back from double digits down with less than a minute to go to win that game. Only time that's ever happened. Game 2 was close as well, but the Pacers pulled that one out as well. And then the next one in Indianapolis. So first 3 games, the road team won all 3. And then Pacers won at home for game 4. Obviously, if the Pacers come back from double digits again tonight, they will win the series and go to the NBA Finals. But what do you guys have to talk about for this series? Let me send it to you guys first because I do have something to mention, but I want to stop talking.
So the scores of these games, like, they've all been really close as far as scoring, but don't let it fool you that the Pacers have had complete control of this series, with the exception of the game 3 win by the Knicks. I mean, even when they're down, 15 in game 1 and come back and won, they've had control of the series. They've controlled the pace. They've controlled the defensive intensity. But I feel like Pacers have really been in control. And then I said it before, I think last week, like, Tyrese Halliburton has been absolutely fantastic. Absolutely has shown himself to be worthy of superstar status. I think that needs to be said, that he has shown himself to be a superstar, not just an all-star.
100%.
Yeah, creating.
Go ahead, Yancey.
Creating memories in the way that, of course, Reggie Miller originally with the choke, but being able to recreate a whole new moment, having Reggie Miller there and being able to create that, there's really no way to disagree with you. I mean, the guy is a star. And I think that that's one of those moments in his career that we'll be able to pinpoint later on in history and say, wow, that's when it really started to take off, or, be able to look back on that kind of thing fondly. So just have to agree with your assessment of Tyrese Halliburton there.
Yeah, I was going to agree with that too. And shout out a stat line from game 4. He became the only player in history. He set a historical stat line, 30 plus point triple double with 0 turnovers. He had 32 points, 15 assists, 12 rebounds, and not a single turnover, and also hit 5 3-pointers. The only player to ever hit a 30-plus point triple-double with no turnovers in the playoffs.
That's insane.
Yeah. And for a point guard.
It's a stat line that speaks to.
Yeah. Dustin, you were talking?
Said it's just a stat line that speaks to his greatness.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been great. Pacers have been great. It looks like Knicks are going to have some trouble getting back into the series. Right now, obviously, they have an 11-point lead at halftime, but double-digit leads haven't done much for the Knicks in the series yet. So we'll see if it matters. Anything else about this series? Hearing none.
Nothing more to say, I think, for me. No, I mean it's been a fantastic series. It's been fun to watch. Again, all the scores have really been close. Yeah, it's just wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the other series, the Timberwolves Thunder Western Conference Finals. Uh, we we saw game one. We talked about game one last week, where the Thunder just controlled that game defensively. Game two, more of the same, 118 to 103. And then the Timberwolves just were on fire in game three. I think they had 80 something points at halftime. It was insane what the Timberwolves were doing in that game. And I want to talk to you, Dustin, about what you felt for the rest of that series after game three. And we can stop right here and talk about that because obviously, first two games in Oklahoma City, Thunder did what they were supposed to do, goes to Minnesota, and the Timberwolves just blow the doors off the building and win by 40 points. What were you thinking at that point?
I wasn't concerned for the series, because like it was a game where Ant, Randall, Reed, like DiVincenzo, all were hot at the same time. And that's just not something that you're gonna get is all of your guys who are all shooting incredible all at the same time. And so I saw it as a statistical anomaly that favored the Timberwolves. And so I wasn't nervous for the series, but instead I kind of felt this like, all right, Thunder, you need to take some maturity and say, all right, we took a hit, we got to forget about it. Apart from the things that we should learn, and then just go back into the next game, and then they did that.
Yeah, game four, the Timberwolves won almost every single statistical category except one, the one that matters. The Timberwolves won like all the shooting percentages, they won the assists, they won the free throw attempts, they did everything, but they still lost the game, and that's obviously the one that matters. But obviously, really close game, 128 to 126, and then game five back in Oklahoma City, the Thunder were up by 30 at halftime, and they won by 30. So, pretty quick, easy series.
For like game four, it was interesting because the Timberwolves were shooting incredible from the 3-point line, doing really great from three, but then they also had like 25 turnovers, and that's just what allowed the Thunder to kind of stick in the game in order to then take the lead in the last minute, and take control of the game in that way and win it. And then I think a comment. It's a growing opportunity here, is what I'll say for the Timberwolves in two ways. Anthony Edwards, fantastic player, and he struggled in the first half of the series with being aggressive, with getting his shots, with getting passes to other guys, just great defensive intensity from the Thunder. But there's several games which you only took, 10 to 15 shots total, and a guy of his caliber should be taking 25.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the Thunder helping shut him down a little bit. I think that's something that he can learn, is that he needs to be able to control the game through aggression, and then he did that in game four, especially.
Yeah, nice comments.
And then the second.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you first.
From about Julius Randle. So in game five, obviously the Thunder this was in the first quarter when the Thunder were up, 25-7. and Alex Caruso stole the ball from Julius Randle at like the 3-point line, and Julius Randle just never moved. He just put his head
Yeah.
down and just waited, and for Caruso to make the shot on the other end, and then for them to bring the ball up that way. And if I was Chris Finch, if I was the coach, I'd be so upset. I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, so you got embarrassed, you got stolen, but this is the playoff, and it's a must-win situation. You got to chase him down. Like, I don't care if you don't get the block. I need to show effort, and I think that just kind of shows what the Thunder had been doing all series, but especially in that game, is that they get so in your head defensively that you really lose a lot of confidence. And I think that really showed in Julius Randle, especially, in the last half of the series. He struggled all series long, but it was kind of more of you just got to shake it off. They're going to get steals. They're going to get deflections. They're going to get blocks. You can't let it matter. You got to bring the intensity, and he did not.
Yeah, I agree with that. And unless you guys need this up, I'm gonna so we can see each other. I'm gonna turn back over here. Stop streaming. Okay. Uh, yeah. Um, it the Timberwolves are still somewhat young team, at least young stars, right? Anthony Edwards uh, and DiVincenzo and that kind of group of guys. Julius Randle's a veteran, Rudy Gobert's a veteran, but it still seems like a young team, and not as young as the Thunder, obviously, but they've been into the Western Conference Finals now 2 years in a row. They've gone home 2 years in a row. Uh, what's the lessons to take from if you're the Timberwolves that you've made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals, but it's really hard, obviously, to win a championship, to be the last team standing. Is this is a step back truly a step back if next year they just make it to the semifinal round, or is there something more important for them to learn, even if they take a technical step back next year? Does that make sense? My question. Okay.
Yeah. I think my answer to that is look at the goal, of course, is to win a championship. But if you look at it a little more holistically, you're one of the four best teams in the NBA. You made it to the top four, to the final four. Like, ever adjustments that are needed should actually need to be fairly small. Adjustments are needed. The Thunder and most likely the Pacers, whoever make it to the finals, whoever wins the finals, they're going to also make adjustments for next season, right? And so there's going to be adjustments, but you don't need to say, "Oh, we lost the finals, let's blow it up. Let's trade away this guy. Let's cut that guy." No, you have your core. You're just going to make small adjustments to fix it. So I think look at it holistically and say we're one of the top four teams in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't see a lot that I would disagree with there. I'm in the same track as Dustin in that you have one of the best teams. Don't don't throw it away trying to fix a mistake that's not big enough to stop you from having the same success you had last year, being that this year. And so, yeah, I'm on board with Dustin's thinking there, and that let's not mess up too much when there's not that big a problem right now.
Yeah. And obviously, we'll talk a little bit more next week, probably. But let's just assume that the Pacers win one of these next three games, whether it's tonight and so we have a Thunder and Pacers matchup most likely. Uh, what are our initial thoughts about that series? The Thunder obviously had quite a difficult series against the Nuggets, 7-game series. Uh, do the Pacers match up to that level of competition? Is this uh, is it just predestined that the Thunder are going to win the NBA Finals at this point, or do you think that the Pacers have a legitimate shot of really making the Thunder uncomfortable?
I can't speak for Dustin, but I think definitely the Pacers have a level of talent that can disrupt the things that the Thunder do well. They're a high scoring offense. They have a decent defense. I think Caruso is going to be a huge factor in that game when they play each other. If he plays well, I see the Thunder having a lot of success based on his defensive play. But if he can't generate the same kind of play that he's had in recent games, then I think they'll struggle a lot trying to slow down Halliburton, among other guys, on Indiana's high-pace offense.
Yeah, I think that matchup would be one to watch, whether it's Caruso on Halliburton the whole time, or if they put someone even bigger on him or something like that. So that'll be really fascinating to watch. I think Dustin probably had to go take care of a kid who jumped out of bed, but we'll
Probably.
present that question to him when he gets back. But um, yeah, I mean the Knicks technically have a chance to jump into the finals if they win, you know, all three of the next three games. But
Right.
so there is a possibility that we have a Knicks Thunder, but most likely, and here's Dustin, I think.
Yeah.
There you go. Dustin, did you hear the question before you run out, or do you need me to?
No.
Okay. The question was, let's just assume that the Pacers win one of the next three games,
Yeah.
and they're in the finals. That's most likely the case. But the question was, is it just predestined at this point that the Thunder are going to win the NBA Finals, or do you think the Pacers have a legitimate chance to make the Thunder uncomfortable in a series?
Oh, Pacers absolutely have a chance. They're a fantastic team. I mean, um, yeah, what they've done so far in this series, can and should be celebrated. Uh, yeah, they're fantastic. So yes, in fact, as a Thunder fan, I would much rather face the Knicks than the Pacers. And the Pacers just bring so much scoring. They're so good offensively, and they're while they're not great defensively, they're good enough that they can, specifically with their depth, they're going to play 9, 10 guys. They have a lot of depth, and so it's not a great matchup for the Thunder. I think that the Thunder have the advantage with their defensive intensity, but no, I think it would be very wrong to write this off as a Thunder victory, and I can tell you for certain that Mark Daigneault is not saying that.
Yeah.
That he's preaching we got to play the best basketball of our season in order to win the finals, no matter who we play.
Yeah, and Yancey brought up the matchup there, Caruso going up against Halliburton, just trying to hound him as much as he can. We know Caruso's technically a sixth man; he doesn't start, but he'll come in quite often. And so, whether they put Jalen Williams or Lou Dort on
It'll
Halliburton
be
first,
it'll be Lou Dort.
yeah,
Lou Dort will cover Halliburton, and Caruso will switch off of Jalen Williams to cover Pascal Siakam.
okay,
Caruso covers bigger guys much better than he does smaller guys. He's able to hound the forwards really well, and so that's what I would expect, and I think that would be the best benefit. Yeah,
and then the problem I see for the Pacers, who do you got in the Pacers that can cover Shea? That can really slow him down. Uh, I mean, Halliburton's big. He's the same kind of size as Shea, but he's not the kind of defender that can do that. And so you're looking at someone like Nemhard if he's healthy, he's dealing with a sprained ankle, or Benedict Mathurin, or someone with that kind of size that can jump in on him. That's going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, for the Pacers to find that level of defense.
Yeah, I also was thinking that that's going to be a struggle. I know that if I was Rick Carlisle, I don't want Halliburton to cover Shea, mostly because of the fouls.
Yeah.
That Shea draws a lot of fouls, and what you don't want to happen is for Halliburton to pick up a third foul early in the second quarter. And so I would not want to put Halliburton on Shea. Benedict Mathurin is probably the best choice there. Maybe a couple of other guys kind of switch off, but definitely not Halliburton.
Okay, and we'll probably predict that series offline officially, but let's get some thoughts right now. We're pretty sure that the Pacers are going to win this series in the next, one of the next three games. But what do you guys think? We'll officially pick this offline, but wanted to cover it online.
Yeah, game one will be next Thursday.
Okay, that's a good. It'll already be going on when we're on, but
Yes,
so
we'll need to officially predict it offline. But yes, to assume that it's going to be the Pacers, which I think is a good assumption. Even with the Knicks up, by 15 or so right now, I think that it's a good assumption that the Knicks aren't going to win 3 in a row. So Thunder Pacers, Scott, I think you and I have talked before that I don't think any team is beating the Thunder 4 times. And so I will absolutely predict a Thunder series. And it's not going to be a sweep. I think that it'd probably be either 5 or 6. As a Thunder fan, I'm going to say gentlemen sweep Thunder in 5.
Yeah. And like you said, we've said it before, and I've said it to you that the Nuggets certainly had the best chance to knock off the Thunder. They took them to 7 games. I don't see any other team having that kind of pedigree to be able to do that. So I'm going to take the Thunder winning that series in 6.
Indiana's going to bring it home. Who's your daddy, baby? It's going to happen in 7. They're going to get stretched out a little bit, trying to fight back and forth with them. It's not going to be an easy series, but I'm going Indiana in that, and I think it'll be a couple of those like battle back games where they kind of look like they're down and out but come back again against a team like the Thunder. But definitely, I think Indiana has what it takes to surprise a few people.
Yeah, my heart says that. So Dustin, I've been a Thunder fan in the past. I'm going to be a Pacers fan in that series. So
Yeah, that's fair. I think I would be for any other team, and I won't be sad with a Pacers victory. That it'd be great to see a team like this earn it. And the thing that makes me nervous as the Thunder fan is that the Pacers are, of course, really good at closing out quarters, especially fourth quarters, and Thunder are not. In fact, Thunder are used to winning by double digits. I mean, they had the largest point margin of any team ever throughout the regular season. On average, they won games by more points than any team has ever won games by. And so they're not used to being in close games, and Pacers are used to winning close games, and so that makes me nervous.
I think that's going to be a big factor when and if they meet up, is what Dustin is talking about. If Oklahoma City's not able to get ahead and stay ahead, we'll see them kind of have a mentality shift and like, oh, whoa, these guys are a little more than we thought they were. And I think that's going to catch them off guard and play into Indiana's hand.
Yeah, let's hope for a good series either way, not a sweep or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to cover NBA playoffs wise right now? Okay. Let's jump into NHL for just probably a couple of minutes. Not very long. Share this screen one more time. and jump over here. Do you now see the ESPN bracket of the NHL playoffs?
I do.
Okay. So this is where we're at right now. Right now, the Edmonton Oilers hold a 3-1 lead over the Dallas Stars. If they keep that lead, they will go to the Stanley Cup for the second year in a row. It'll be the same matchup, the Oilers against the Panthers. That's what it was last year, uh, and the Panthers won that Stanley Cup last year. So we could have a rematch there. You can see how things happened in the first and second rounds there. We had several 7-game series. The Winnipeg Jets over the St. Louis Blues, the Dallas Stars beating the Colorado Avalanche. Um, and then we had another 7-game series in the semifinal round, the Florida Panthers beating the Toronto Maple Leafs in 7. Um, but so far, it looks like we'll have a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup. Any thoughts about the uh, the ongoing Stanley Cup playoffs?
Seems like hockey teams score way more than they used to when I was growing up.
Yeah,
6-1, 5-3, five
yeah,
to four. Actually, looks kind of exciting these days. Might have to check it out.
yeah. I'm used to those 1-0 games like down here, and the 2-1 games. But yeah, we get some really good offensive play right now in hockey. Anything
Yeah, I
else,
think
Dustin?
I would say when sports in general, nobody likes to see rematches from the previous year's championship unless you're a fan of the team that are there. And so exciting that the have a chance to rematch, but kind of hope for a little more parity.
Yeah, maybe the Oilers can do the force a rubber match. Third year in a row and figure out which one of these teams will win. That used to be the case back, NBA when it was always the Bulls winning uh, twice, twice against the Jazz, and I think there were a couple of other Pistons versus Lakers kind of thing. So back in that time, a little bit more parity now in the NBA at least. We're going to have completely
Yeah,
different
I
teams.
mean, yeah. So this in the NBA, this is the seventh year in a row in which a different team is going to win the finals.
And that's awesome. That's
Like
great.
that's great. Whereas, like, you know, 15 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago, LeBron James went to 9 straight finals all by himself,
Yeah.
9 times in a row.
Yeah, and we're seeing the same thing in the NFL. Obviously, the Chiefs have been to 3 straight Super Bowls, and 4 or 5 of the last 6 or 7, whatever it is. So, but we got a different winner at least this year. But now the Eagles are kind of that Eagles and Chiefs are those
Yeah.
dynasty teams, and so it's nice in the NBA where we're getting that difference every year. Okay, I'm gonna knock this one off. Okay. All right. So I wanted to introduce a topic because maybe 3, 4 months ago, however long it was, maybe it was even longer than that, we had a very spirited discussion about football philosophy that just kind of came organically out of something that we were talking about. I think it was Dan Campbell and the Lions and that whole philosophy. And it turned out that we had a 2 versus 2, you two, Dustin Yancey, against me and Cody, and the aggressiveness kind of way of football. And so I wanted to kind of turn this around and talk, see what kind of philosophies we have on basketball and see if there's any kind of differing philosophies that we want to debate there. It's completely possible that we all have the same philosophy and this kind of falls flat on its face, but I kind of wanted to see. what philosophies we have. If you were, uh, if the three of us were interviewing for a head coach job in the NBA, and they're saying, okay, what's your philosophy? Um, how do you answer that question? Are you offensive based? Are you defensive based? And what are you guarding, or what are you trying to? Are you good at getting layups and dunks? Are you getting 3 pointers? I mean, what is your philosophy from a basketball perspective? Uh, and wanted to start with one of you first. Um, and you don't have to explain all five of your philosophies, just your first big one that you think about.
I'll yield to Dustin since he's the basketball guy. Let's hear from him first and kind of pick your brain.
Yeah, I'm definitely a defensive first mindset there. Um, but hard to describe specific philosophies that go in there. I prefer man to man with some shading zone. Being willing to shade a little bit off of the guy you're covering in order to block lanes, but then be able to recover quickly on defense. But on offense, I think that the main topic here is shots. What constitutes a good shot? What kind of shots should you be going for? Are we going heavy analytics with 3 pointers and layups only, or what are we doing? And my philosophy on that is maybe a little bit old school, which is the best shot there is whatever one you make. Like I don't care which one it is. I just care which one goes into the hoop. And so if I have just to play to the player's strengths, I look at the Thunder with SGA. He is incredibly good in the mid range. And so for him, I'm saying try to get as much mid range shots as you can because you're good at that. And whatever shots go in is the high analytical ones, right? Um, and so I don't care what shots you take there are. But anytime you can get an open three, take it. And anytime you can get an open layup, take it. And then everything else is whatever shot goes in, whatever's open, take it. Um, I think that's the offensive philosophy. I do not agree with late game fouling. I as a player want to be trusted by my coach that I can play defense. And whenever you foul late in the game, you're saying I do not trust my team to play defense, and that I think that's just an insult to the team, the organization, yourself. And so I do not agree with late game fouling, and I never will. Obviously there's times that you have to. You're down by one and shot clock's turned off. If you can't get a steal, you got to figure out a way to get the ball back, and a foul is the best way to do that if you can't get a steal. So there's times it has to happen, but I don't like it, and I wouldn't want to hire a coach who says okay, yeah, we're gonna foul at the end of the games in order to get the ball back or whatever it is. I don't like that.
Um, I mean, I'm not surprised that first of all you're defense first because you are defense first in football too. I'm curious how these two uh, kind of, if sports in general you're defense first. Well, we can talk about baseball too, but anyway, like what I am a little bit surprised about is um, the difference between your so when we were talking about football, you said your responsibility is to not lose the game, right? That's what you said. It's not necessarily to win it; it's to not lose it. But that's specifically against the basketball philosophy of fouling, because if they make the 3 pointer, you lose the game. If you foul them, you're not going to lose the game if they can only make 2 shots, right? So I'm curious to hear how that fits into your philosophy of not losing and versus winning.
It would be about where does the pressure to score lie? I want the pressure to score to be on the other team. I don't want that pressure to score to be on me. And so if I'm up, say like the Thunder, it's a great example. They like to foul late in games even if they're up by two, you know, which I don't understand and I don't agree with. Um, but because what you're doing is you're taking the pressure off the other team and putting it back onto yourself in order to score. Now you have to make your free throws, versus them having. I would much rather give a team a contested, high pressure 3-point shot with the only likelihood to come out of that is that they tie the game, versus I put the pressure on myself to say if I miss a free throw, they have an opportunity to win it. And the philosophy with that is I want the pressure to score to be on the other team. If they do it, if they make a miracle shot like Aaron Gordon did or like Tyrese Halliburton did, there's nothing you can do about that. They made a great
shake their
shot, say
hand and
great
move on.
shot. Yeah, great shot. But we played the best defense we can. But what I don't want to do is put the pressure onto myself and then miss it. And then my team has to try to figure that out and say, what did we do wrong? Oh, I just missed a shot. And then they're struggling with confidence and trust in each other and all that kind of stuff. No, the pressure to score always needs to be on the other team.
And we saw that exactly backfire against the Nuggets for the Thunder. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great example of that going wrong is they put the pressure to score on Chet and he missed free throws and now the door's open. If I have the lead, the pressure needs to be on the other team and I need to trust my defense.
I can get on board with that. I think my offensive philosophy revolves around ball movement. It's not necessarily take the three, although I in every single analytics you're going to see 3 points is more than 2 points, and so I mean that's as easy as it gets. But it's also a 45% shot against a 65% shot, and so if you're a really good 3 point shooter, but my philosophy on offense revolves around ball movement. The ball is always going to move faster than a man, uh, and so whether you're and so it doesn't just start with ball movement. Also starts with player movement. You got to move without the ball. You can't stand still. Stagnant play is dead. It's going to kill you. You got to move around as a player. You got to move the ball around. The ball finds the man, and you have to get the open shot based on where you're moving to. Off ball screens are huge to get people moving around. I like a lot of movement. I don't like the old days where someone would stand. You have your one player at the right at the free throw line, and then you have a guy on the wing, and you just kind of hope for a nice little matchup. Like that doesn't work in my opinion. You've got to move a lot of players around. It's got to look pretty complicated in my opinion. You've got to draw up some plays that have a lot of people and a lot of pieces moving, and the ball finds the open man. I like the 3 point shot, but I'm not going to live and die with it. It's wherever that ball and that space on the floor opens up for the shots. So I'm a very ball movement and player movement person.
If I was playing against you, I would switch off ball screens. As long as people don't have the ball, I'm just going to be switching guys in order to negate your player movement. So I'm not saying I disagree with you because I also think that can be effective. I think that Stephen Curry is one of the greatest of all time because his two things he's best at is shooting and off ball movement.
Yeah, uh, and obviously that kind of switching screens is a really good way to negate that. But at the same time, when you're having a big moving on a small and you have to switch, then the ball finds the mismatch at that point. You get the big guy against a little guy down in the paint, and that's going to work most of the time. Or you get a really fast guy and a really slow guy on the outside, and so uh, that's why it's not just player movement; it's also ball movement and finding the mismatch or finding the open shot on the floor. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But in my mind, that's going to work most of the time. You have to go with ball movement, and I'm not huge on getting the shot up within the first 10 seconds. That's not how I think the best offense necessarily is, because a lot of the time that turns into a bad shot if you're trying to rush it so much. To me, it's about taking your time a little bit more and finding the open player or the open shot or the open mismatch.
That reminds me of another philosophy that I would say is right now it's very popular for, at the end of a quarter for a team to try to play for the last shot.
Mm-hmm.
That you'd get a shot up with 35 seconds on the clock in order to get the ball back at 10 seconds in order to get the last shot. All you're doing is you're giving yourselves two really bad shots that you're going to miss because you're rushing it to a time. All you're doing is missing two shots. So I don't care about the time. Get points. Like that doesn't matter if you're gonna get 0 points out of it anyway. What you throwing up bricks for? Like just get a shot that gets you points.
That's one where I completely understand your philosophy there, and I am also one to try and get double up. In as long as you make it right, I don't want to get bad shots necessarily. I don't want to shoot a 28-footer just because you're going to get another chance at it. But if you can double up in a quarter, uh, I would go for it for sure. Yancey, do you have any
Yeah, I think
philosophy? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm defense first. If they can't score, they can't win. And if we can get, in the old high school days, you could score one bucket, play good defense, hold the basketball the rest of the time until the quarter runs out, type of thing. And even though it's a crap strategy to watch, if you can execute with just stifling defense for like early 2000s Pistons, those guys, if you have that style of defense and a moderate to good offense, you're next to unstoppable. Because that Pistons team couldn't. I mean, they couldn't put up over 100 points to save their life, but you couldn't put up 100 points on them. That was a freaking guarantee. And so I lean toward that methodology of if we outplay them on the other side of the ball, if we create turnovers, if we just outplay them defensively every minute of the game, the opportunities on offense will flow from that. And that's not to say that you abandon your offensive scheme, but I'm certainly more in the school of play good defense to create good offense. And talented hoopers want to score points, right? Every good basketball player wants to get the ball in the bucket, but not every good basketball player wants to buckle down and guard you from line to line. You know what I mean? The entire court. But if you give me three guys on a team that are their mindset is that just no buckets on me, bro. If you give me a couple Dennis Rodmans, a Ben Wallace, those style of players that excel at the things that other people overlook and don't care about, that's how you get a dynasty, is those overlooked talents that you use on both sides of the ball, but are more seen as like, oh, well, I mean, he does that well, but he'll never be a superstar because he only does that well. I'd rather have five guys that do that than one guy that can do everything. And so that's kind of what the foundation would be for my philosophy. On offense, I think I kind of live in both camps with you guys. Ball movement's extremely important. To touch on what Scott is talking about, off-ball movement is also extremely important. But I'd say I'm conservative as far as like the three-point shot goes. I don't really need it. We're going to play good defense. So let's just get high percentage shots as often as possible, and the rest will fall into place without having to overcomplicate anything. If you play if you play basketball by that style, it's kind of basketball for dummies, in my opinion, and you don't have to overcomplicate it with a bunch of extra stuff. It's just do your job for each guy, and then we come out on top when we do our jobs consistently.
Yeah, I like that. The last thing that I'll say is when you see really good defensive basketball, I think it's almost more exciting than seeing really good offensive basketball, especially in today's uh, climate where offensive is everywhere. Great offense is everywhere. When you see great defense, you can feel the crowd get even excited at that point when it's really great defense. At the same time, like I think back, like the 2014 Spurs, their ball movement is what I like uh, aspire to when I play online or when I try to play in a game. That kind of ball movement is just gorgeous basketball, and I love watching that really pretty coordinated and beautiful basketball. Anything else on philosophy?
I'll add one more. If you can get a transition three, that's what I would like. I like transition threes. I know that it's lower analytical than a layup. I'm not talking about when you're the only guy there to take a three. But if I have the choice between a wide open three and a contested layup, I'm going to take the wide open three.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. That's a smart move, in my opinion, to not only catch the defense off guard, but keep them off the uh, keep them off guard and keep their feet moving so they know that they can't just go straight to the paint and transition. And then they'll start to creep up, and that will open more backdoor layups and dunks and things like that. So I
Yeah.
definitely agree with that point, that transition threes are useful.
And I think one of the yes, you talked about the Dennis Rodmans and Ben Wallace's. I think one of the underrated statistics is offensive rebounders. Guys that can get that ball on offense, because that's another one where everyone collapses to get a rebound. Suddenly, you've got three guys wide open for three, off an offensive
Mhm.
rebound. Or just go up with it again. Like that skill set is severely underrated in my opinion. Okay, Yancey, we have a PTI question from you. Let's hit that before we end.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem. Give me just a second to pull it up so that I can word it properly. I didn't exactly memorize it. Okay.
It looks like the
Okay, so
Knicks
the
have
NFL
blown that one.
continues.
Yeah.
What's the score?
Knicks are up by 20.
Oh, geez. So the NFL continues to navigate rule changes for player safety. If the league were to implement one more drastic rule for safety that fundamentally alters the game, what do you think it would be, and would the benefit outweigh the cost to sports entertainment value? So basically, does football need more rules? I don't really think so. And if they keep adding them, what if anything is it adding to the value for us as consumers watching the sport? And is it worth it? I would say yes if it's protecting players, but I don't know how much more protection they need until we just put Tesla bots on the field. So.
They're going to put them all in the little bubbles that you walk
Oh
around in the
boy.
water. It's going to be fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. um, no, in all seriousness, it's a great question. And I think about those. I mean, they're trying to do everything they can for the head injuries, and I think they're doing everything they can with that. The other ones are serious too. The big ACL tears or the Achilles tears are the ones that I think they're going to attack next. And you look at what's what's happening, what's causing that the most. A lot of it is, I mean, they're trying it with the diving at the legs uh, and things like that. And I think they're going to start really penalizing the going out of bounds uh, a little bit more. I think you have to go when you're headed out of bounds. They're going to call it out before you reach even the sideline. At that point, they're going to say, okay, if you hit him in bounds as he's headed out of bounds, that's the foul right there. Uh, and we've talked about, Patrick Mahomes, who fakes going out of bounds and then goes up the field. Obviously, that's going to be called into question, but uh, and called as a foul. But I think it's going to be something like that, where the play is called dead before the play is actually dead, a lot more often. Whether they're going out of bounds or whether they've given themselves up in a way and they're not going to be hit. I think I'm not exactly sure how that looks, but uh, mostly going out of bounds or sliding or something like that is going to be part of the game, and it's going to be less intense than maybe it was. And I think it's all for player safety, but it's going to get messed up a lot, especially at the beginning before they get those things in place. I think it's going to hurt the integrity of the game a little bit.
Yeah, as I thought about this as well, I think I came to a similar conclusion, and specifically on the rule change that's going to happen. Yancey, what I would push for is that a player has to signal that they're giving themselves up, whether it's a quarterback in a slide or they're headed towards the out of bounds, like whatever it is, they raise their hand as they're running, and as soon as that happens, play's dead.
Good. Yeah.
And so a quarterback running up the middle can get 5 yards and like raise his hand, slide down, plays dead. Like you hit him, it's a penalty. Same thing going out of bounds. I think that's probably a rule change that's on the horizon. And yeah, there's gonna be a bunch of crotchety old men who be like, back in the day we killed them, and like
that's me. I wanted to bite his finger off. We were in the dog pile for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So like it's gonna change, but I think that's gonna have both a positive and a negative impact on the game. Positive impact being that there's less injuries. But the negative impact is, there's going to be a lot of that discussion around, where's the game as it used to be. But overall, I think that evolution is good. On the second topic of head injuries, I think that the NFL's really done everything they can from a rule standpoint to try to protect head injuries. What they need to do is admit that the helmet is dumb. That what you basically have is a just a metal thing around there, and then when somebody gets in the head, they just go like that's what causes a concussion. Like we figured this out with cars about 30 years ago. Because they have these big metal cars, people would get in wrecks and people are dying because they'd have broken necks because the car doesn't crush. So now they invented cars that crush. And so what you need to do is create a really big, fat, ugly helmet that crushes, because it's not a bike helmet that you're protecting against it scraping on the ground. No, you're trying to protect a collision. And the way you protect a collision is that you have the helmet take the damage. And that's not what it's.
You have to limit the time or expand the time that your head's decelerating after the impact. You know what I mean? Because most of it. So I can tell you from a fighter standpoint, most of your knockout trauma comes not after I've hit you, but after you've hit the earth and the earth has subsequently rocked your shiz and just completely scrambled your nugget. And that's what, I mean, so to get on to player safety is important, yes. But I'm one of those crotchety old men that's like, well, don't play the sport, pussy. If you don't want to get hurt, go sit somewhere else. Go play sarcasticball or tennis or track or whatever gay stuff you're into. But leave football to people who are okay with head trauma and want to excite people. You know what I mean? It's like what, the people who want to do it are driven by crowds of people cheering like the Roman gladiators. You're not beating me to a lion. I'm okay with a little CTE. Just pay me well and admit that we're giving me CTE so you take care of my health care whenever I'm drooling. You know what I mean? But as long as you give me my golden years and don't lie to my face and tell me I'm not brain dead and don't give me my check or my insurance, I'm fine with it because I think that that's look, bro, I signed up for it. That's what I'm here to do. The people aren't going to cheer because I politely hugged my opponent and asked him if I may win. They cheer because I take it from them in front of everybody. You know what I mean? And so when we pull back that animalistic reasoning and why we like to watch people do this crazy thing that takes so much will to adversity. Like you have to be okay with losing all the time and not being the best to be the best. I think we dilute what the games were for, to breed competition and make people do things that they never thought were possible. So I think it's great to protect people in those bounds, but you also have to be careful when you're watering that down because you lose the heart of the sport at that point.
Well said. And it's it's definitely a touchy subject because you don't want people to get hurt unnecessarily. But football is a violent sport. It always has been. You want to protect people as much as you can while also protecting the integrity of the game, and that's where what sometimes what sometimes suffers a little bit. If you're going to have people waving their hand while they're like in the middle of the field and no one can touch them, like might as well just replace all of the pads with flags, right?
That's my kind of point there.
And
And
so,
if violence is so bad, why are we drone bombing people? You know what I mean? Like we're used to violence. It's not that bad.
yeah, it's all really good points, and I'm all for protecting players um, to a certain point. So um, I just don't want to see the game suffer or the entertainment value suffer in addition to it. And so it's tough to really separate those two. I also don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to get anyone unnecessarily hurt. Uh, so yeah, but
Would we
I
watch?
I think it's probably a topic for another day, but
mhm.
to kind of try to, there's been a lot of recent exposure of the business of sports injury recovery, which is always how fast can we get the person playing again? Even if it, even like, you said that say you have an injury and it 100% needs surgery to fix the injury, it always becomes okay, what can we do to delay that surgery? How can we get you functioning again? What fluids, what medicine, whatever things can we pump into you in order to get you playing, and we'll fix that later. And that is a serious, then all of a sudden these people have serious health issues later in life,
Yeah,
as a result. And so that's probably a discussion for a later day. But
I like that
I
discussion
really
topic
like
too.
opening that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
How willing are you guys to watch robot football? Would we watch former players control an avatar robot? We're not 30 years away from that.
No.
Not but 30. Well, I mean, it's around the corner, seriously. So, well, would you be interested in that? Or do you lose interest because there's not the same human will and like adversity and stuff like that, even though you have minds battling like battle bots or whatever?
I'd be interested to see it for its novelty, but it'll probably wear off really quick. So I don't know.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree too. I think that it'd be fun to. I want to watch Patrick Mahomes play Madden just to see like what he does.
Yeah.
But I'd probably watch it twice and get bored.
Right.
I feel kind of the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But that topic that you just brought up is definitely one that maybe we'll put in for next week, in addition to Cody's memory, and obviously talk NBA Finals at that point too. Those will probably be the three main topics next week. So, thanks everyone, and we lasted a full hour. So,
Oh,
see ya.
that's what she said. Sorry, I didn't even mean to do that one. My bad.
That's it.